Thanks for clicking play on the latest edition of Iowa Revolution. My name is Spencer. Good to see you, Dr. Bob. Dr. Bob, you're back.
Yeah, it's good to see you too, Spencer.
Got a lot of stuff to catch up on. We got, first of all, the Healthy Kids Iowa program has been unveiled so far this summer, so we'll catch up and see how that's gone so far. Also, we've recently seen cuts to public broadcasting with that rescission vote from the Congress, so we'll discuss how that may affect local communities who access some of those programs from National Public Radio. Of course, we have IPR, so we'll discuss possible outcomes of that cut that may be affecting us here in Iowa. Also, Hunter Biden, did you see that Hunter Biden interview by any chance, Dr. Bob?
I read about it.
It was captivating, to be quite honest. He was on Channel 5, which is a like a webcast podcast basically. So when I first saw on a Channel 5 interview, I was like, what Channel 5 was this interview? So that is from a webcast, like I said. So we'll discuss what Hunter Biden said during that interview. He said a lot of stuff. So we'll discuss some of what he said. Also, vaccine use has dropped not only in the United States, but also worldwide. We've discussed those cuts to USAID, Dr. Bob, and that's partly the reason why we've seen those vaccine rates drop already. And that's just going to get worse in the coming years. And Dr. Bob, when we first started this podcast a little over 2 years ago, we discussed fireflies
I
and
remember.
how fireflies were disappearing. We hadn't seen them in forever. And I've noticed just anecdotally myself that fireflies seem to be back. And I saw a USA Today article that says, yes, in the Midwest, you are probably seeing more fireflies this year. So a little bit more information on fireflies. That's also our factoid of the week. Got several different firefly factoids of the week. Say that 5 times fast. And also, I'm going to quiz Dr. Bob. I've got my top 5 Laffy Taffy jokes. So we'll see how Dr. Bob does on answering those Laffy Taffy jokes at the end of the show. We will start off with this Healthy Kids Iowa program just starting. This is from the Des Moines Register. In May, state officials were cleared to launch the Healthy Kids Iowa pilot program, possibly the first of its kind in the U.S., after the Trump administration granted a waiver to use $9.1 million that would have otherwise gone toward the federal summer EBT program, also known as Sunbucks. Families participating in summer EBT were issued a $40 a month debit card each month to spend on food during the summer. The key difference between summer EBT and Healthy Kids Iowa is that rather than giving families a card to buy food, the state is arranging for families to pick up pre-filled boxes of food. The new system meant that food pantries like Knock and Drop had to set up quickly to distribute the food, and families had to figure out where to pick it up. This is Lauren Bauer, a fellow in economic studies at the Brookings Institution. She said, I am of the mind that hunger for children is a solvable problem, and it does require an all of the above strategy. The prepared meals and the charitable food sector and food pantries work in concert with SNAP and with summer EBT to tackle this problem. She continued, but pulling the EBT solution out of the equation makes the whole system much less effective at combating hunger. She continued, the evidence is that when they were given these additional dollars, especially from the randomized control trial, that they use the money to purchase more expensive, healthier foods like dark leafy greens, lean meats, and fishes, etc. And again, that's from Lauren Bauer with the Brookings Institute.
Yeah. Well, shall I go off?
Yes, please. That's why I brought up this subject.
Well, it's not about feeding kids. This is about control in the sense that the best thing they could possibly do, the cheapest thing they could possibly do, the most empowering thing that they could possibly do would be to, use those summer bucks, EBT cards, SNAP, part of SNAP. The best thing that they could have done was just to get that money to the families. Now, what this does, and this is something that they did um, in the past under Trump, and actually, Beto O'Rourke, Matt Russell, and I wrote articles for Time Magazine and for the New York Times. What was happening was Trump had this program. We're in the pandemic. People are hungry. There's 10,000 people in line at food banks in Texas, which is partly why we brought in our friend Beto O'Rourke. And the thing is that you've got 10,000 people in line. You've got food pantries without the facilities, without the the infrastructure that they needed, and to deliver. And so what happened was that Trump started this food baskets to from farmers directly to people. So they had to set up a whole new infrastructure for it. And it was very costly. It was very inefficient when all they had to do was expand SNAP. That's all they had to do. So food banks were overwhelmed. Who's used to feeding people with SNAP payments or these summer EBT payments? Who's used to doing that? The
Grocery
grocery
stores.
stores,
Right.
right? So we built up this, you know, less efficient system to deliver food to people. And it was ridiculous. And we had, and so what was really interesting about this was that our pieces in the New York Times and Time Magazine made its way to Vilsack. And Vilsack, texted Matt and said, read the articles, understand the articles, we'll try to see what I can do. And a couple of weeks after the Biden administration took over, SNAP benefits were expanded. So that's what we needed to do to save hungry people during COVID, people without jobs, kids not in school. I mean, it was just horrible. And so rather than build this system that was inefficient and costly, they were spending millions of dollars to send new refrigeration units to food pantries. It was just ridiculous. And so it was all performative. And later on, Ivanka Trump admitted it was all, this whole thing was just a good PR stunt for Trump, that it looked like he actually cared about people when he introduced the most ridiculous system. And this is the same thing. And so why does Kim Reynolds want to do that? Because she doesn't want people on SNAP. She thinks that the system works for everybody and that anybody that needs SNAP is lazy or a cheater or worthless. She doesn't recognize that the way the system is structured means that some people can't make enough money to eat. Walmart tells its employees how to get SNAP benefits. Walmart is exploiting the system. It's Walmart's fault. It's the big corporations' fault. They're not paying people enough to make a living. McDonald's is also very bad. Anybody that's employing anybody on minimum wage, the system is broken. People are hungry because the system is a shitty system, and that capitalism is doing its best to suck everything out of us, and it's being pretty effective at it. And so it doesn't work. It's also that Kim Reynolds doesn't trust Iowans. She doesn't trust Iowans to pick the food. And so, to shop the way that they want to, the way that their family needs. She wants to force certain things down our throats and wants us to be grateful that she's doing this. It's inefficient, it's mean, it's stupid, it's more expensive, it costs the taxpayer more. It's just a ridiculous scheme.
And one of the things that we've done before in the past, Dr. Bob, we work for a radio station that does a food drive every holiday season. And so we have local food pantry directors. We've talked to the Iowa Food Bank director many times before. And one of the things that we always tried to do was sort of lessen the stigma of using the food bank, because a lot of people have had to use the food bank at one point or another during their life. So I think this is also just part of, we want to single you out. We want people to know that you need the help. You can't just go into the grocery store like everybody else and buy the food that your family needs to literally survive. We're going to pick out the food for you. Another very paternalistic view of trying to help people. And then also the other fact is, a great article from the Des Moines Register. They went on, they talked to that, what was that place? It was in Des Moines, Knock and Drop. So they were as prepared as they possibly could be, but they only had about a month lead time to plan for this. So the first month that they did it in June, they were completely slammed, pallets up the wazoo. They really, it was just chaos, literally. So then they said that they, were a little bit more experienced, so that things were a little bit more smooth in July. But they also, again, to your point, had to rearrange their entire jobs in order to be able to do this. And then, of course, they also have other food pantries from around the area that come to their location to pick up their food. So then there's another logistical issue where people are driving around to pick up this food, which, as you said, it's delivered to the grocery stores anyway. Why add another one or even two middlemen?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It costs the taxpayer more. It's I think that I think that the main thing behind it is Republicans think that everybody, well, I know that they think that if you are, it's hard to explain this, but anyway, I'm going to try. They think that if you're a good Christian, good things will flow to you. And that if you're not a good Christian, all it takes to solve your problems is to become a Christian, and the Lord will share his bounty with you. And so that's what they think. They think that everything is the person's problem. Everything that befalls every one of us is our problem to solve. They don't see that the system is structured to keep many of us, maybe a quarter or a third of us, or more than that, living paycheck to paycheck, probably half of us living paycheck to paycheck, because that's the system that works for the big corporate interest. And that any medical bill of any size puts us into poverty. And it's tough to climb out of it. If you don't have a cell phone, you're not going to work. If you're not going to work, you're going to be homeless. It's just that the system is structured against us, and they think that all we have to do is, transcend the system and claw our way to the top over each other. And everybody at the top, with the grace of God, is a winner. And everybody else just doesn't try hard enough or believe in the right thing.
Let's get into some cock talk here because we could go on, and I've got plenty of thoughts, but I think we've said our piece on that, and I think people understand what the issues are. And you put it very eloquently, as always, Dr. Bob. But I do want to get into this cuts to public broadcasting. Listeners of this podcast know that we talk about PBS, or not talk about, but use PBS or NPR as a source for a lot of the stories that we talk about. Dr. Bob, you and I have friends that either currently or have worked for Iowa Public Radio or even National Public Radio. Dr. Bob, I know you've been on IPR at least a half a dozen times, right?
Yeah. Yeah. IPR is great. I mean, it's just fantastic. Produces incredible content. And it's fact-based, old-fashioned journalism. Um, are most of the people that work there liberals? Probably. And it's because they're inquisitive. They want to know what's happening in the world around them. They're not going to lie. They'll make mistakes, but they're not going to lie, and they're not
I was
going to
going to
say,
say if they're biased, it's biased for the truth.
yeah, yeah. And there's nothing about the our Republican elected officials or the national or state Republican Party. They're not interested in anything close to the truth. All they're interested in are the things that they can say that can help their agenda, and they count on their people not to have any other news source other than Fox News, OAN, or Newsmax. And so to them, defunding public radio is it's just a tactic to gain power. It's not about bias. It's about power. Yeah, again, like you say, it's biased toward the truth. They are interested in the truth.
Yeah, and I think of a lot of the different media organizations, we talked on this podcast before about kind of false dichotomies and playing it, both sides. But I think NPR and PBS do a good job of eschewing that when it's not necessary. Here is the truth, here is the facts, here is the reporting, and there you go.
Well, and the thing is, too, that they present alternative perspectives. They present different perspectives. I was listening to something the other day that reinforced my own preconceived notions about an issue. And then all of a sudden, they presented an alternative position that I hadn't considered. And I had to reluctantly change my opinion because we tend to do this confirmation bias. If it reinforces what we already think, then we agree with it. But public radio presented a different perspective on an issue that I initially didn't want to adopt, but I had to adopt because it made good sense and they had the good story and the facts behind it. So they changed my mind. They didn't confirm my biases. And so that's what good journalism does, and NPR and IPR are among the very best. And so it's about everything else that the Trump administration is doing. It's about power, and it will hurt people. Just like defunding, Radio Free Europe. Who is gleeful at that? Putin.
Putin, yeah,
Yeah.
Jinx.
So yeah. So anyway, so I guess Trump wants to make Putin happy, but we knew that already.
And just to kind of give you as many details as we can, it was a total of $1.1 billion that was clawed back in those federal funds. So $1.1 billion is a literal drop in the bucket. I believe it's a tenth of a tenth percent of the annual operating budget of the US government. The state of Iowa, Iowa Public Radio has currently 4 licensed radio stations. Their yearly budget is about 10 million, and they stand to lose from the funding cuts in this about $1 million per year. So about 10% of their operating budget. So we don't really have a lot of firm details. This is something Laura and I talked about on Capitol Week on Monday night. We may not have more details for a while, but this is certainly going to end up in people either losing their jobs or just jobs not being filled. I think that's probably the more likely thing when contracts come up. They won't hire people that they originally had planned to hire. And I think that goes across for hosts, for techs, for sales behind the scenes, although sales is probably going to be even more important now. But we will see an impact in the state of Iowa. When you take away $1 million, a 10% of your budget, that's going to affect reporting.
Yeah.
Which of course is also, that's what they're trying to do. So it's not a surprise.
Yeah. They don't want them to be good. They don't want them to be efficient. They don't care. They want to have their own megaphone. They want to have their own, national media. They don't want IPR. They don't want any independent media. And I find this remarkably sad. I listen to Iowa Public Radio every day. And so I think we all need to, if we can afford it, to increase our donations.
Yeah, and just one last thing to say about this too. I mean, I mentioned there's 4 different locations of Iowa Public Radio, and they all serve communities, all across the state. So, and there are people just like you that depend on Iowa Public Radio, not just for the radio, but also for podcasting. I mean, NPR is one of the kings of podcasting, and obviously podcasts are growing like wildfire. So I'm guessing that will also affect who they can hire and who they can retain in terms of their podcast as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Not interesting, it's going to be shitty, is what I should say. It's going to be shitty to see what happens to public broadcasting in this country.
Yeah, and I mean, not that the Trump administration is conservative, but it's not. But conservatives have wanted to get rid of public radio and public television for a long time.
Right. Yeah, there was a very impassioned speech from Mr. Rogers that goes viral every once in a while. It just recently went viral again because he had to speak in front of Congress people defending PBS and why it's so important to have public broadcasting because, as we know, a lot of commercial broadcasters are not going to do what public broadcasting puts the resources towards. And again, that's part of the plan. They don't want these things to be reported accurately or honestly.
And some of the other programming doesn't make a lot of money. And so the corporations aren't going to want to do it. If you've got some programming for kids that, let's say, is really important, let's say Dora the Explorer, let's say that Dora the Explorer doesn't make any money. Well, it's such a fantastic program, just that funding its existence. It's not all about money. Let me say it again. It's not all about money. It's about making the world a better place and providing the content and the resources for humanity, for Americans to thrive. And the Republican Party and Donald Trump could care less about that. Let me just repeat that again. It's not about money. You can do a whole lot of good in public broadcasting and all kinds of other things if we think about what is good for the American people. That's why government exists. That's why we want smart government that provides for our safety, for our education, for our children's education, for us to be able to thrive. Republicans don't want us to thrive. They want us hungry. They want us frightened. They want us under their thumb and grateful for every crumb they toss at us.
And then I lied. One last thing to add. We've discussed this in other cuts that Doge has been doing, that the Trump administration has been doing, but a lot of these jobs are dream jobs. We've talked about job cuts at NOAA or USAID or Job Corps. These are jobs that people literally grow up or at least go to train, college or whatever to do.
Absolutely.
And we're also seeing more and more radio stations turn to artificial intelligence. We're seeing more and more everything turn to artificial intelligence. So there's less and less jobs, period, in actual broadcast media uh, and technology too.
yeah, and something has to be done as more and more people lose jobs and there aren't the resources to help them. Remember when they were saying, "Oh, everybody has to learn to code."
Oh yeah,
What about when was that?
right.
10, 15 years ago?
Yep,
All those coders have lost their jobs. What are we
yep,
going to do now? Well, I guess, we look for, you know, work at Walmart where they pay below subsistence wages.
right.
Yeah, and
And
we park
and
in,
and tell us to use the government funds because they won't pay us enough.
right.
And then they skimp on their taxes and they don't actually put in what they should be putting in to feed all these people that they're putting on government assistance. Let's talk about Hunter Biden here. He was, again, it was on Channel 5. It's a webcast podcast. So this is from the AP. Former President Joe Biden's son, Hunter, seen by some as the problem child of the Democratic Party for legal and drug related woes that brought negative attention to his father, is lashing out against Democratic elites and others over the way he says his father was treated during last year's presidential campaign. By the way, as a quick aside, this week is the 1 year anniversary. I think Monday, the 21st, was the 1 year anniversary of Joe Biden officially exiting the race. So you see how time flies, right? 1 year ago. So,
Wow.
so Hunter Biden spoke publicly in recent interviews about last year's election when Joe Biden ultimately dropped out and Donald Trump won the White House. In a 3 hour expletive-filled online interview with Andrew Callahan of Channel 5, he directed ire toward actor and Democratic Party donor George Clooney for his decision to call on the elder Biden to abandon his 2024 re-election bid. Quoting Hunter here, "What right do you have to step on a man who's given 52 years of his fucking life to the services of this country and decide that you, George Clooney, we're going to take out a basically full page ad in the fucking New York Times to undermine the president?" Hunter Biden continued before he trailed off to talk about Republicans are more unified than Democrats. There were also weighty critiques of a number of longtime Democratic advisors. Anita Dunn, a longtime Biden senior advisor, has made $40 to $50 million off of work for the Democratic Party, Hunter Biden said. James Carville, advisor to former President Bill Clinton, quote, hasn't run a race in 40 fucking years. Former Obama strategist David Axelrod, Hunter Biden said, had one success in his political life, and that was Barack Obama, and that was because of Barack Obama. Other former Obama aides who now host Pod Save America are, quote, four white millionaires that are dining out on their association with Barack Obama from 16 years ago. That's Hunter Biden.
Well, I think some of the latter stuff is actually funny, especially Carville. I mean, he's getting out, he's writing for the New York Times, Washington
Agree. When I
Post.
saw this, I was thinking, if I wanted to win a political race in 1996, I would hire James Carville. But it's not 1996 anymore. And same thing with David Axelrod. These guys are gone. They're toast. They're over. And I do agree with Hunter on a lot of this stuff. Like the Pod Save America guys, what are you actually doing? Because they flip-flop a whole shit ton, especially lately with the
Mhm.
Mamdani stuff and David Hogg. And it's like they basically just put their finger in the wind and see which way the wind is blowing anyway. So agree with Hunter Biden. Fuck all these people. We don't
I
need them.
agree. I agree with him on that stuff, but
I don't agree with him on doing crack cocaine, though. I will make that a point. Make sure that I say that because he also went on about a 10-minute rant on the difference between crack and cocaine. So it was a very wide-ranging interview.
Well, I have to ask, well, first, Joe Biden was incompetent. Why didn't his family, gently pull him aside and say it's time to step down? That debate with Donald Trump was a giant embarrassment. And anybody that watched that debate that thought that that man should be president, I don't know anybody that did. It was,
Dr. Biden said in this interview that they gave him Ambien before the debate, which I don't
yeah.
understand. I mean,
The bottom line is that Hunter Biden is the privileged son of an American elite, privileged man. Hunter Biden made his living on the Biden name, not off of any inherent capabilities, abilities, educational levels
so
that he.
counterpoint here, Dr. Bob. I got to cut you off here. Doesn't that make this more important? Somebody that is at this level is saying this stuff as explicitly as he is.
Yeah.
This gets attention. When he's saying these sorts of things, people are like, "Yeah, man." And he's saying a lot of things that I know I was watching some parts and was like, "Hell yeah, man. Finally somebody's saying what everybody thinks in the Democratic Party." And again, it's not a great messenger, but maybe it is more important coming from Joe Biden's son that grew up the way he
I
did
don't want to
and
hear
knows all the
anything.
people.
I don't want to hear anything else about Joe Biden. I don't want to hear anything else about Hunter Biden. Any attention that we pay to Joe Biden or Hunter Biden or any of this crap distracts us from what the Trump administration is doing. It's just this was a big, sloppy, wet kiss to Donald Trump. That's all this Hunter Biden interview was. And they're eating it up. And I refuse to. I think it's ridiculous. He should have advised his father to step down, advised his father to do what he actually promised the American people, that he was going to be a transformative kind of figure and there to just, sort of set the
Transitional,
stage for
maybe?
young transitional to set the stage for the next person. Iowa has never liked Joe Biden. He was terrible here. He took fourth. I gave a talk to the Chicago Council on Global Affairs saying how badly Biden had done in Iowa. And then the next thing that happens is that James Clyburn comes in and rallies everybody around Joe Biden, and everybody drops out. Pete Buttigieg, Klobuchar, everybody drops out and rallies around Biden, who is the worst candidate. Well, not the worst, but one of the worst candidates in Iowa.
I
And
was
we're
going to
paying
say, really, the only one
consequences for
worse was
this.
Kamala. I mean, Kamala and Joe were at 0.8% or whatever.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just think we need to look to the future and we need to just look around at what is happening to us now. And you know, what CBS did, what AB, all the media is folding. They're fearful. I mean, that's not good for America. All the media, all the universities, all the institutions are crumbling. Uh, children's cancer research funding is being pulled because they didn't like how Harvard handled the Palestinian protest. They're just what does cancer research have to do with the Palestinian protest? So you pull the cancer research money? It's just ridiculous. And so you and I have just wasted all this time talking about stupid Hunter Biden, and I don't want to. I don't want to talk about Joe Biden. I want to talk about saving democracy.
So here's the only reason I brought this story up, Dr. Bob. James Carville has a podcast. He's ranked 63rd in the most popular 100 progressive podcasts in the country. We are about 10 spots ahead of him at last check at number 53. So we are much smarter, much better, much more attuned to the current day Democratic Party and progressive politics in general than James Carville. We'll move on. To a wider scope here, vaccine use has dropped. This is from the AP. More than 14 million children did not receive a single vaccine last year. It's about the same number as the year before, according to the UN. 9 countries accounted for more than half of those unprotected children. Officials acknowledge that the collapse of international aid this year will make it more difficult to reduce the number of unprotected children. In January, U.S. President Trump withdrew the country from the WHO, froze nearly all humanitarian aid, and later moved to close the USAID agency. And last month, Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said it was pulling the billions of dollars the U.S. had previously pledged to the vaccine alliance Gavi, saying the group had, quote, ignored the science. Kennedy, a longtime vaccine skeptic, or denier, I should say, has previously raised questions about the diphtheria, tetanus, and whooping cough vaccine, which has proven to be safe and effective after years of study and real world use. Vaccines prevent 3.5 to 5 million deaths per year, according to UN estimates. I'll also add that we just had a case, I believe it was 2 or 3 days ago in Western Iowa, another confirmed measles case in the state. This was a vaccinated individual. I did see statistics, though, that so far, with this latest measles update, 92% of those that have tested positive were unvaccinated. Just 8% of those were vaccinated adults. And of those, of course, if they've had the vaccine, they're much less likely to get very sick and then pass along the sickness as well. So just wanted to add the local touch there as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess we don't care that vaccines that have been proven very successful over the years, we don't care that children don't get them. We don't care that children and people will die, millions of people. We just don't care. And we're just pretty ignorant. And I think, it relates to general distrust of institutions, distrust of experts, that the conservatives have been undermining experts for a long time because experts provide factual information that we can learn from and build upon when they're not interested in anything but power. And so this is another thing. You strike fear, you make people fearful of the vaccination. You don't, care about the consequences. It's just very frustrating. I remember how grateful we were to line up for the polio vaccine. I mean,
See, I kind of wonder, and we've brought this up in cases of the return of Nazism too. There's too many people that have died that were victims. So now we haven't seen friends that have gotten polio or friends that have died of smallpox or friends that have died from measles. So it's not something that we have a personal understanding of. And I think most people, I hope most people are smart enough to be able to read and see that this is good for you and listen to your doctor. But there are all sorts of examples where I think things are so far in the past now that it seems like, oh, if I don't get my kid vaccinated, what's the worst that could happen?
well, I mean, we have something more recent. It's COVID. I was very grateful to get the COVID shots too. I'm perfect. Yeah, I trust the process, the scientists. Um,
By the way,
because
I have taken all of my COVID vaccines and I have never gotten, well, I mean, who knows, but I have never tested positive for COVID.
I haven't either, and it just doesn't make any sense to me that it's all part of the Republican program to undermine experts and to cast doubt. And again, this is all about having us running scared and frightened.
Right. And yeah, again, taking us out of the WHO, slashing the budget for the CDC. We've also seen recently that AI use, oh man, I should have had this in my notes, but I want to say it was the FDA is using artificial intelligence and it's using a bunch of sort of what we saw with that report from RFK, the Make America Healthy Again memo or whatever he released. It had all basically the AI is just making up studies, not citing its sources, just making up information. So, and the thing is, we should be more clear on what artificial intelligence. This isn't artificial intelligence. It's a large language learning model. So it's basically just trying to figure out what the next best word to say is. It's just literally making things up on the fly. So what do we expect is going to happen? This isn't some supercomputer. This is pretty much just like the technology we had back in the day of like Apple being able to talk, write something out, Apple being able to say what you wrote down. It's not that much more advanced than that.
No, it's not. I mean, but the thing is, we're old enough to remember that if a secretary of Health and Human Services or secretary of whatever, if they would have come up with a document that had made up stuff in it, they would have lost their job.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a blip on the radar of the populace.
Yeah.
Hardly made a meeting.
And they never really, and they didn't even deny it. They basically just said, "Oh, we're making the corrections," or it was just it was a user error or whatever. It's like, no, you got caught cheating. Basically, you got caught cheating on your test, and now you're, oh, I'm not going to do that again. Can I come in for extra credit, basically?
Yeah.
I've been waiting to talk about this for a couple weeks here, Dr. Bob. Fireflies are back, baby. Have you noticed more fireflies this year?
Yes, I have.
So this is from USA Today. So I have felt that way. And I was like, okay, is this just me? What's going on here? So rainy, damp weather along the eastern United States in summer 2025 has one upside. Fireflies love it. And it's been wet and rainy in the Midwest as well. And this is from Candace Fallon, a conservation biologist with the Xerxes Society for Invertebrate Conservation. By the way, I think that's your dream job, Dr. Bob, being a
Yeah,
biologist with the invertebrate conservation.
yeah, I love invertebrates. In college, I took coursework on invertebrate biology.
How could I guess? I just knew it. I knew that this would be right up your alley. So I'm quoting Candace Fallon here. Fireflies and their prey, snails, slugs, worm, need moisture. So years with high rainfall, particularly in the spring, can boost populations of fireflies in the summer. And warm, humid nights of 70 degrees or warmer are ideal for seeing the flashing lights that evoke nostalgia for many Americans. Virginia Tech entomologist Eric Day told USA Today, it's hard to know for sure, but it appears that the whimsical bugs are indeed thriving in some areas. What is known, fears of fireflies' imminent demise are misplaced, said Day. He said, I would say fireflies are threatened due to habitat loss, but they are not going extinct as some are adapting in different regions. Fallon said in an email to USA Today that, quote, from anecdotal reports, it does appear that at least the Midwest and Northeast are seeing record numbers of fireflies. So fireflies not going extinct. They may just be changing where they are living. And right now, it seems like they're enjoying the Midwest. So it's good to see the fireflies back.
I've seen them, but I can't believe they're at record numbers compared to when I was a kid. I
Agree.
mean,
It's not even close to where it was when I was a kid. It basically light up the block.
yeah. And it's very interesting. And in your show notes, I learned something interesting also that the males are on the ground looking for females because the females can't fly. I didn't know that. I've often wondered why I see the firefly all lit up walking on the ground. Well, he's just looking for his mate. That's pretty interesting.
You stole my a little bit of my thunder for factoid of the week, but I do have a couple more. I do want to say too, and this is something that we've talked about hand in hand with the declining firefly population. But I did read a little bit more on how we've discussed the decline in seeing bugs on your car grill and on your windshield. And so I looked a little bit more into that, and some reports have it as an 80% reduction in the worldwide insect population just within the last 15 years. So first of
Unbelievable.
all, a huge decline in insect population. And another couple factors that I'd never really thought about before, but are probably true, is the aerodynamics of cars has changed. So instead of the bug hitting your windshield, it just flies over your windshield. And then also more traffic may cause not as many bugs because it's almost like you're creating a tunnel where the bugs don't want to go anyway. So that's part of it, but again, it does look like the main thing is just that there's less bugs, and that's because of pesticide, loss of habitat, and all the things that we're doing to the environment.
This may be your best extended factoid of the week.
And we're
And
not even done with the facts either, Dr. Bob.
well, bring them on.
Okay, so you mentioned that the female firefly does not fly, or usually does not fly, but each firefly species has its own unique flashing pattern. So what happens is the male firefly will kind of fly around and then get closer to the ground with where the females are, and then they'll be able to flash back at each other. And by the way, it's every 6 seconds. So every 6 seconds on average is when the fireflies will flash up. And then when the male and female see each other, it's almost like a form of communication of, oh, hey, you're the same species, we can mate, and then they'll mate.
Pretty cool.
Very cool. Also, even firefly eggs glow,
I had
which
no idea.
doesn't seem like a very good idea evolutionary wise. Makes them probably a little bit easier for the predators to find them, but I did think that was pretty cool. Firefly, and I'm sure the eggs are obviously microscopic, but I would love to see firefly eggs under a microscope, just little glowing eggs.
Well, we're going to have to be going around and getting into the yard and crawling on our bellies.
Yes, that sounds fun. It's going to
Yeah,
have to cool down a little bit first. It's too damn hot right now.
yeah, for sure.
Are you ready for my top five Laffy Taffy jokes, Dr. Bob?
First, you have to tell me what a Laffy Taffy joke is.
It's almost like another word for dad jokes, maybe, but
Okay.
just silly jokes. And you've had Laffy Taffy before, right? The candy? You haven't,
Nope.
have you? Of course
Nope.
not. So every piece of Laffy Taffy candy comes with a joke. So that's why they're called Laffy Taffy jokes. And they're for kids and they're dad jokes. So you'll get a very good idea. I did hide these from Dr. Bob, so he does not know the answers. So the first number five, top five Laffy Taffy jokes. Dr. Bob, how do you organize a space party?
Um, I have no idea.
Planet.
Planet.
Number four.
That's good.
See, I knew you were going to like these jokes. Okay, number four. Why don't birds follow directions?
No idea.
They like to wing it. I think I've told this dad joke on this show before, but Dr. Bob, you ever notice that whenever like geese or ducks are flying in a V, there's always one side that's longer than the other? You know why that is?
Because one side is longer than the other. I don't know.
More birds on that
Or
side.
birds on that side. Okay.
All right. So yeah, there's a little sneaky number six for you.
Wait, I have to write these down. These are too good. I'll
Well,
leave
yeah,
that.
they're just in the sheet. You just got to scroll down a little bit further.
All right.
So yeah,
Okay, good.
you'll have access after the show, Dr. Bob.
All right.
Number three, what did the bee say to the flower? So another insect-based joke here. What did the bee say to the flower?
I don't know.
Hi, bud.
These are so good, Spencer.
Number two, what do you call a fake noodle? A fake noodle. And it's not a foodle, a fake noodle.
I don't know.
An impasta. See, I almost wanted to put that at number one. So we'll see which kind of reaction we get for you for number one. Here is number one. Why did the golfer wear two pairs of pants?
I think I've heard this before, but I've forgotten the punchline.
In case he gets a hole in one.
Oh boy, those are all good, Spencer.
I feel like, we've gotten away from trying to end the show with some levity. We've had so much hard news. So I'm glad that we got to talk some fireflies today and had some dad jokes to share. It's not all doom and gloom, at least.
And so Laffy Taffy is out there on store shelves.
And I will make you a promise, Dr. Bob. I will never bring up Joe or Hunter Biden on this show ever again.
Oh, it's
Now that
okay.
I know how you really feel, yeah, we don't have to talk about Hunter Biden.
No, you talk about what you want to. Just
But we are
expect.
better than James Carville. I will hand to God, we are absolutely better than James Carville. The numbers and stats prove it. So that's not just me saying that.
I'd have to question their methodology. I'd have to know more about their methodology. You're gonna have to show me the list where we're on top.
Well, we're not on top yet, Dr. Bob, but episodes like this will certainly get us there. My guess is they listen to each and every podcast and rank them by their own. Oh, I like this one. This one's okay. No, I have
Yeah,
no idea. I have
yeah. I
no
have no
clue.
idea. Well, if we're being good Republicans, we don't care as long as it puts us in a position of power.
Yeah, we don't care about stats or numbers. We
Yeah.
can be number one and you don't have to tell us how or why. We just want to be number one.
And and if we were, good MAGA people, we could just say it, we could just assert we're number one.
True. But we don't, because it's
No,
not true.
no,
Um, we are, last I checked, just two people away, two subscribers away from 500 Substack subscribers.
nice.
It's a pretty damn good number, I think. So yeah, make sure you share this with your friends. Maybe they'll like it too. Family members, even people you don't like, send it to them. Just spam the hell out of them. Maybe they'll click on it. You never know.
And you can always send in questions or subjects for us to talk about. I mean,
Absolutely, yes.
happy to
Yep,
hear that.
always checking Substack. And yeah, so if you have a dad joke that you would like to share, Dr. Bob would love it. I guarantee it. Dr. Bob does have two other Substacks. Can make sure that you follow Deep Midwest Politics and Culture. And then he also has Cedar Creek Nature Notes, taking a walk in the woods with Dr. Bob. It's been hot as hell. What have you been seeing in the woods, Dr. Bob?
Oh, it's been really interesting. I just spend, for one thing, the mushrooms are just crazy this year. Probably
Okay, yeah.
getting water.
Again, the moisture and a lot of the rain. Yep.
And I've been going out early because I really want to avoid the heat.
Yeah,
It's been crazy frog time, just crazy, crazy frogs everywhere. Um, I, one particularly rainy morning, I went out in the rain and there were frogs in a cornfield adjacent to where I walked out of Cedar Bluffs, a natural area in Mahaska County, but it was just like a whole cornfield filled with frogs, and that
that's
was
awesome.
fascinating. Um, the flowers are just incredible. The insects are beautiful. I took a little video of a caterpillar wandering around. Sometimes the
I saw
best,
that actually on Instagram, I think. Yeah, yeah, I saw that. Yep.
yeah, and so that's fun. Sometimes you just have to stop and just look around you and get on your knees, get on your belly, and it's so beautiful. The closer you are to the earth, lay on your back and look at the sky. I mean, just immerse yourself in nature and you'll feel a lot better. If I didn't, I don't know what I'd do. My head would explode during these Trumpian times if I wasn't out in the woods every day.
Was going to say you are one of those guys that has about 100 Google Chrome tabs at once, and your brain is probably even worse. It's probably about 15,000 open tabs that you're going to get to at some point. But yeah, those walks in the woods. And yeah, I've been starting to walk a little bit more often too, getting outside. You also are a big practicer of the art of noticing, Dr. Bob. You do
Yeah.
notice things, and not just in nature, but even in your writing and stuff. It's just like, oh man, like why didn't I think of that, or why didn't I notice that? But you are a good noticer. It's an underutilized trait, I think, is just noticing things.
Yeah. Well, there's a term for it. It's a flaneur is a French term for others. That's the male term. I forget the female term, but it's French for people that just walk around and look at things and try to understand the world a little bit better and move slowly and think so. One of the subscribers to Deep Midwest said that's what I was. I'm a flaneur.
I love it. That is good because yeah, you are. You're just good at seeing other things that other people miss. So make sure you follow those on Substack. Make sure you follow us, and like I said, share it around. Hopefully, we can get up to that 500 and then bust through that and get up to about 50,000 subscribers here before you know it. So thanks to all of you that do subscribe already. We come meet to you each and every week, and yeah, make sure to follow us on Substack, Dr. Bob. It's really good to see you after a couple weeks of not getting to see you. So yeah, can't wait till I get a chance to do this again next week.
Yeah. Looking forward to it, Spencer. Thank you.